I'm not Carson Daly,
Like Carson.
but I have his forehead. It's the weekly feed. Kyle Meredith. This is Merrill Garbus, 2 yards.
Woo!
I am so excited
I'm so excited.
to have you on camera.
I'm more excited to be on camera.
Yeah, because it never happens.
It's not very often, it's true.
No, that's not true. You make amazing music videos, and everybody wants to interview you these days. They want to know all the things that Merrill Garbus is thinking about on an hourly basis, because you've made it.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Wow, you're just starting with the flattery.
It's all just lay it on here.
Bring it
Yeah,
on.
yeah. No, congratulations,
Thank
because
you.
the new record is fantastic. Every
Thank you.
record's been fantastic. I feel like you keep setting the bar higher for yourself to one day eventually let us down. Because
It's because it must be. If one stays a musician long enough, you inevitably let
That's
everybody
true.
down.
That's true. Look what happened to you too. First time they've ever let anyone down in their careers. Yeah, first time. Yeah, that's
Well, that's my comparison usually is Bono.
It's Bono.
Yeah.
Marilyn Bono.
Yeah.
That's now I want to talk a lot about this. I don't, I thought about that we were going to talk about Israel and Palestine and ISIS but no, I don't want to know about how you feel about those
Sure?
things
Okay.
anymore.
Well, just let me know. Just bring it on in if you want to.
Yeah, we can go stuff. The new record, the thing I found interesting about your sound, it's like you go out and you see the world and you hear the world and you decide you can turn it into a song.
Mm-hmm.
And when I go out and I see the world, traveling around America especially, it almost becomes like any little town. You're landing in the airport and you look down and it looks just like the place you left.
Mm-hmm.
And you can kind of lose that specialness about it, but I don't get that from you. What I get from you is you go out there and you see the world and suddenly it arrives in your head differently, whatever that is. I mean, is that anywhere near accurate?
I mean,
How does that all come together for you?
That's very complimentary, and I think because I think in this day and age, it is funny how same everything looks the same, and like we were joking about how we have days off. We had a day off in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'd never been there before. And what we all a lot of us felt compelled to do was go to the mall and hit the air conditioning and hit the Barnes and Noble and hit the, like the movie theater and hit the same things that that are kind of consistent throughout all of these American towns. But I don't know.
It's like going on vacation and eating at McDonald's.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have people that do that. Yeah.
Totally, and that's what our culture is kind of based around is safety, right? Safety and consistency. That we all want to know exactly what's coming, and we want to not be surprised too much. A little bit of surprise, but not enough to really shake us. I don't know. I guess what I love about living is being surprised by different. Parts of the world and ways of looking at the world too. I mean, we were just talking about Kentucky. Mm-hmm. We're in Louisville now, and I have, my mom grew up in Pineville, Kentucky, and I grew up in the Yankee North in Connecticut, and so we were always like, Margaret's Yankee girls. So as a Yankee girl, coming down and visiting my
See you in that flag thing with the baton marching. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, and my sister and I were like, "What's a Yankee?" Like really little kids.
Right.
But I don't know. I think I always came from my dad's side of the family being Jewish New Yorkers, and my mom's side of the family being Presbyterian Kentuckians.
Mm-hmm.
Do you say Kentuckians?
Sure. Yeah, Kentuckians. Yeah, that's the
Kentuckians.
thing. Yeah.
People from Kentucky. Hill folk.
Hill folk.
So
that's Eastern Kentucky, so that's hill folk.
Yeah. So coming from that somehow of things that don't make sense together, but work, and learning so much about having different perspectives on the world. And my overarching super cheesy thing is that I think if we all could walk a mile in each other's shoes more often, there would be a lot more peace and understanding in this world, And so I do love bringing that into what I do for a living, which is music.
It's kind of interesting you say that. I'm making the joke about all the bad crap that's happening in the world right now. I mean, what a perfect time for any kind of statement like that,
Yeah, and more complicated. It's an oversimplification maybe,
sure.
But at the same time, no. If someone could really try to be compassionate and really really empathize, really, try to situate oneself in a different perspective. And I think what that takes is like a level of security in your own perspective. Like, okay, I'm safe enough to examine what does this person, how do they think this way?
Right.
It's so easy to go, well, you're just wrong. It's a lot harder to try to see the other person's perspective.
When you write, do you try third-person writing like that? Do you ever try those exercises when you lyrics and stuff?
Well, I think it's tricky because I don't, yes. I mean, I try to, a song like Doorstep on Who Kill, or on this album, Stop That Man. I am trying on different voices. I think I've always tried on different voices. And hearing phrases come from other people, like what trickles into your ears at a coffee shop, or, in a McDonald's, in the mall, there are all these things. We've been playing the song Eso lately, and there's that line, I can't believe I ate the whole thing. And that's like, I've heard so many people say that, you know what I mean?
It's one of the classic 80s commercials right there.
I
can't believe I ate the whole thing. Yeah.
What commercial is that?
It's like what was that? That's a spicy meatball. It's one of the, I really don't remember.
Yeah.
The marketing wasn't good enough, but the line was.
Yeah, exactly. But to kind of, I love taking fragments from somebody else's perspective that has been refracted.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a word?
Sure, it is now. Shakespeare.
The refracted slivers.
Listen,
of
if he can make them up and get awarded, so can you. So.
But that there's a kind of that we're all reflecting and bouncing all these ideas and conversations off of one another. So I love taking fragments of that and kind of displacing it so you see it in a new context, and maybe hear it differently.
Yeah. As far as sound goes, though, it almost seemed like you arrived with this sound fully intact. And I'm sure that wasn't the case, but that's the perception, that you came out swinging on that first record with this really unique, like, the fun game. Who does she sound like? Tick, click, tick, tick, click, loops, all the stuff. And that works from album 1 to 2. This new record really, it's still you, but it seems way more realized you. Like, this seems like a much more complete version, maybe, of what you've been trying for. I mean, how hard was it to come to this sound? Was that natural? Was that something you sought out?
It was really natural. I mean, I think only after the fact did I say, wow, it's a lot more hi-fi, high fidelity than the very first album. But that wasn't that felt like a really natural, evolution of the sound. But yeah, it still has similar elements, that there are kind of collage-y elements, sampling ourselves, sampling, trying this idea of acoustic sounds sounding digital and digital sounds sounding acoustic. The ukulele is on almost every song on the album, but it's very hard to tell what it doesn't sound like a ukulele.
Right.
So there are these same kind of, not tricks per se, but same things that kind of are qualities of the Tune Yards sound. The Tune Yard
sound, yes.
That in the future will be referenced as the Tune Yard sound. That I like to keep in this the sonic world of Tune Yards, let's say.
I mean, you joke about that. There will come a time, and I am certain of this, there will come a time, and if it's probably already started already, of these bands being launched as you as their main influence. As kids come up and discover themselves at 15 and 16 or whatever, and they pick up Tune Yards for the first time, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to come and be like, oh, Tune Yards. I started a band because of Tune Yards.
It's really crazy. I never thought that would happen, but I also have already seen it happen.
Yeah.
Even if it's not, I wasn't the first one to do it, but using a looping pedal to loop drums live on stage. I certainly wasn't the first, but that happens a lot now.
Right.
Or people standing and playing a floor tom, and a snare on stage, which again, I wasn't the first to do it, but it is interesting to see that be a thing
kind of take,
and be acceptable and be not so weird.
Right. We're talking about rhythm, and there was a drummer in my past somewhere, that said to me that there's only so many rhythms.
Whoa.
But that, I don't know if that's true. I'm not a drummer, but for an artist who bases so much of their music on rhythm, is that true? Do you find that to be true? Because it's like, all right, there's only 12 notes. What can we do with 12 notes?
No, Heck no. It's like in a scale, if, you know, da 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 da, but then there's like da 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 da.
Yeah, right.
There are all those microtones. I
Right,
think the same thing with rhythm. And that's what I think I have started to explore on this album, that I'm really excited because I have only scratched the surface of that. And that was through studying Haitian drumming and getting this whole other perspective on rhythm to kind of open up those worlds that I didn't know. But sometimes that is a depressing thought to me, like, what if it's all done?
Because you have those artists who's like, well, it's all done before, I'm only just remixing it and rearranging it. Yeah.
In fact, most, I think. And now, you know, electronic dance music, which is, I think we're finding, is really taking up a lot of space in the festival scene, the festival circuit, and in the lives of young music listeners. It's rhythmically pretty much the same thing. You know, rhythmically pretty simple. And I want to twist that. You know, I think that human beings and even Western ears have a capacity for a much more complex sense of rhythm.
Yeah.
And to dancing to that rhythm. So that's what kind of.
That's hopeful. That's hopeful.
Yeah.
I get worried about the people in the, you know, I mean, there's way more people that use music as wallpaper than are music obsessive, unfortunately, and that's not my world, but I see it out there.
It's
and
not your world, and thank goodness. Thank goodness.
I'm a Two Yards fan.
I would not be here.
Yeah, you would not be. But I get scared of that, you know, because of what music. It sounds so pretentious. What music is allowed to exist because people just don't care. I mean, you know, and we see that in certain formats and everything, where it's like, man, that's a different band, but that song's been on that radio station for 20 years, you know, with different words or anything. So.
Yeah. But then you have, I mean, I think that's true, but I also am having the experience of just being this totally weird band. I mean, I can't believe sometimes that people are singing these songs and are here, you know, that we played. Where did we play last night? Can I remember? St. Louis. we played in St. Louis, and, you know, I've been going to St. Louis for the past probably 6 years or something with Two Yards, and like little by little, it just grow, you know, not like shooting to the stars of St. Louis, you know, like the celebrity status as you have, Kyle.
Celery status.
But you know, little by little, that people are like still are looking for something that is unique and
What's
different.
refreshing.
Yeah.
It is refreshing for people who actually care. It's extremely refreshing. And there are a lot of us that actually treat it, you know, we always say like a drug, you know, it's always that I need the next hit, you know, and you know, and you got to wait for that next, come on. The other fun part about being a Two Yards fan, of course, is the fashion aspect. Because you come up with, you come up with this great music, but then, you know, in the music videos and whatever we're looking at, you know, looking back, I found this interesting parallel, and I can't be the first person who's ever mentioned this, to Cyndi Lauper.
Aww.
You know, right? So you take that as the compliment.
It's a total
yeah.
compliment.
And she had she's so unusual, you know. And I have it written down here, actually. There was a part in Rolling Stone when you appeared on the sales charts. They do the little flashback thing, and it was Cyndi Lauper.
I know.
You know, it was Cyndi Lauper. How much time do you put in on actually thinking about the fashion side of it? Is that just you, or do you say, I want an image, I want this album to also be perceived visually in this sort of way? Does all of that thought go into it?
Yes, and this time far more consistently than it has before. And that's because I have this wonderful friend who has become my stylist, Alina Dobermant, and she's just like my style hero, because I used to think nothing of my physical appearance. I mean, really, the first time we played South by Southwest, the record label people were like, really? You're wearing a t-shirt and jeans to play, you know, like because they could see what, you know, probably the potential that we have now, I think, reached a little bit more of like the spectacle of the show. And I came in just being like, it's the music. I don't, you know, enough with this frills about the visual stuff. People should be listening to the music and paying attention to the music. And I'm coming to realize that I come from a theater background. So the visual, it was everything.
Yeah. It was an opportunity, at least.
Exactly.
I mean, every artist has the opportunity.
Totally. And now to use it in a way that I feel comfortable with. I think what didn't feel comfortable was like, hey, why don't you wear a pretty dress? Because you really should look a little prettier on stage. that wasn't going to happen for me. But, you know, the ability to kind of be like, I want to wear, you know, nasty looking bubblegum pink, or I want to wear, you know, this like weird vinyl red dress, that feels a lot more, you know, kind of wedded to the music. So in the beginning of this whole thing, we started a Pinterest board before the album was even done. You know a Pinterest board?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Okay, so
I have
like,
a wife. I know what a Pinterest board is. I've had a wedding recently.
It ain't just for the ladies. It ain't just for the ladies. But good on you.
Yeah.
So we pinned, you know, everything from, I was starting to get re-obsessed with Pee-wee's Playhouse and really thinking of that, you know, this sense of like play, but play for adults and play that has like a darker side to it.
Right.
And a weirder side and a more complex side. So we just started pinning things that, you know, that made sense. And that went into the promo photos that we did.
Wow.
And that went into, you know, the set piece that we have now, which is like this huge stretched bubblegum looking kind of thing.
Right.
I was, you know, had just been to Haiti, and we were looking at Haitian art too. So all these things kind of came together. And it's lovely to have that be, you know, now it's the visual, the performance art part of things as well.
It's got to keep it a little bit more interesting than just walking out every night playing the same song and walking off, like being able to kind of have all of that.
Yeah, and in fact, I'm so lucky that I have these bandmates who are like willing, you know, if I'm, I mean, it's just, I ask them to do weird stuff, you know? And they're like, oh, okay, great. Instead of like,
yes, boss. Yes, boss.
Yeah. Instead, well, yeah.
Right.
Not even, they do it with a excited smile instead of dragging their heels.
Like-minded. Yeah. While I'm on the subject of nostalgia, although way cooler to compare you to Cyndi Lauper, I now see "Wait for a Minute" as your More Than Words for Extreme in the canon of your music.
You are just.
So you've accomplished that, and maybe tweens
I just bring
will.
you around with me all the time.
You know, if you ever try to do a
lot. Merrill, you've written the classic jam of all decades.
If you ever decide to do a live mashup of the two, I can't hear it in my head, but you know, you can work in More Than Words and Wait for a Minute.
Oh my God.
See, you can do it. You can do it. The creative mind is working. Yeah.
All right. I'll accept that.
Let's go for it. Darker. I want to switch to darker, but on the subject of songs, mortality has come in to your life with Hey Life. You know, is that something that's on your mind a lot these days?
Sure.
I mean, I say that in the most generic way. I know it's on everybody's mind, but now you've worked it into what's become a very popular song.
Bless your heart for making me feel like a star, because it's like very popular. No, I'm serious. Very popular is such a relative word. But yes, I think about it all the time, because I think does everybody? Probably.
Yeah.
And the sense of like, what am I doing with my day and with my life? I mean, you mentioned having a 7-year-old child. Happy birthday.
To him, yes. Thank you. He says thank you.
Not to
he
you.
says thank you.
But that you know, in thinking about whether I will or will not have children and what kind of world I would be bringing children into, and it seems to me that having a kid is a real, you know, I know what I need to be doing today. I need to be putting food on the table for this human being to keep thriving and being alive. And I think, yeah, it is. I'm 35. It's one of those times where I'm stuck on that tour bus too long, and I wake up and I'm like, what am I doing? You know, I know that might sound absurd, because from the outside it seems like things are going well, and they really, really are. But one can lose perspective really quickly. Sure. And I did lose perspective when we got off of tour, and I was home trying to write an album, and I was like, really? Does anyone really care if I make an album or not? You know, who, you know. Thank you. Some people do, apparently.
Yes, we very much do care if you make an album. Yeah.
But when
you have to keep making these.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it does. It becomes a thing. Like, how do you date? How do you date when you're on that kind of tour? When you're on, you know, even that kind of, I guess, public eye? Because, you know, I know you're surrounded by people who know you, and the people you come in contact probably know who you are, and that I'm sure that becomes an issue. you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because it's like I've got a lot of friends who I don't know very well and don't know me very well.
Yeah, yeah.
There is a level of that, but it's not. I ain't famous. I mean, compared to some, what's wonderful is after a show. Nate and I were walking on the streets of St. Louis last night. We were just running into people who had just been at the show, and talking to younger musicians, and there is it's a wonderful camaraderie that you can have with people, and that I've always had with music. I mean, this is, touring has been my life for the past over a decade now, basically, which is crazy. But that notion of like, yeah, we all got a lot in common, really, when you put your heads together.
Is there a lot of life outside of Tune Yards at this point? You talk about those between album moments. I mean, even days off. Are you able to find a sense of self that has little or nothing to do with music?
Yeah, and it is. I mean, it gets into more of like a spiritual life, like meditation and being good to my body. I think that's. I don't want to fall into the same trap that so many musicians do, and I think most touring musicians I know who are alive these days are like yoga, running, kombucha, kale. You know what I mean? It's that's like the new rock and roll kind of is like how do I not?
The after parties are so different.
Oh yeah, but how do I mean? And whatever. I'm sure there are many who are not like me, but I'm pretty sober when it comes down to it because it's my work and because I want to be able to wake up in the morning and have a life before the show starts, before sound check starts, before all that starts, so that I can write songs. I don't want to keep writing songs about writing songs. Boring.
Luckily, there's enough autobiographies out at this point that kind of show you the ropes of what not to do. At this point,
true.
Everybody, that's been in rock and roll, 10 years before now has written a book.
Exactly.
So,
and we all know the horror stories. And
we also the VH1 series.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Behind the crazy music.
Dude, Tune Yards, Merrill, it is so awesome to talk to you and everything
likewise.
about it. Pleasure. Thanks for dropping by.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And keep making those damn records, all right?
All right.
The pressure is on.
Sir.
Yeah. All right. We're out.